Hello, Golden Hill family. I just wanted to get on real quick and just say that if you missed Sunday school this morning, you missed a great lesson. Brother Lewis did such a great job in bringing out this lesson. God brings outsiders in. And the scriptural text was Matthew chapter 1, verses 1 through 17. And it was a great lesson studying it. I enjoyed studying it, but I also enjoyed coming in this morning and just being a part of the group discussion. But there was a couple of things, highlights that, I just thought that if you missed it, it would be worth bringing out. And one of those things, I'll just start with at the beginning of that chapter. And in the lesson, it actually talks about how a lot of times as Bible readers, we skip the genealogy when we're reading and studying. And if we see that, I don't know if we're intimidated, some of the names are hard to pronounce. It's just a lot of this person begat that, this begat that. And I think we'll just think that, oh, I'll just skip down and just start reading the text. But it pointed out in this lesson that the genealogy gives the Bible credibility because it proves that these were actual people. These are actual people in the line and the lineage of Jesus. And that's important. And it also is significant because it also proves the humanity and the historical identity of Jesus. So it's not just like we're just, that's just a bunch of names and let's just get to the story. The names are actually a part of the history that leads us to the birth of Jesus, to that story. And so tracing Jesus's natural genealogy through real people from Joseph or Mary, his earthly parents of record, to Adam, God's first son, validates his humanity. I highlighted that in the book. I've got a lot of highlights. I write a lot in my book. That was one of the things that even for me, and I read a lot, but there's always something to learn. And that just struck me because I have been one of those who have skipped the genealogy. But it was very important. Another thing that this lesson brought out as far as the genealogy is that it demonstrates that He loves imperfect people. Wow. I mean, we know that, I think, but this lesson really brings it out again. God brings outsiders in. So we already see that working just in the very intro of this lesson, because so many of the names in the genealogy of Christ, these people were outsiders at one time in their story in the Bible, but God brings outsiders in. The title of the lesson itself is major. Another thing that I had highlighted and that I found significant, maybe because I'm a woman, is Matthew's inclusion of women in this, in these 17 chapters, because we already see that he includes Rahab, Ruth, Bathsheba, Tamar, and Mary. So these women, they represent a range of ethnic and cultural and diversity, but it also it signifies how Jesus included everyone. There's no one that wasn't included. There's no specific gender or culture or background that was not included in the line of Jesus. I thought that was important because Matthew, he makes no attempt to, I think it says here, he makes no attempt to gloss over any of the disreputable members of Christ's family, neither female or male. That stands out as well, because so many of us, if you talk to people, I know I've talked to people and they're not in church, they're not a part of a church because either they are still feeling some type of way about something they've done in the past, or they are allowing others to still hold them to things they've done in the past. But right here we see that it doesn't matter, male or female, whatever the reputation was, whatever the culture was, it didn't matter. Jews and Gentiles, God brings outsiders in. So I thought that was major as well. Another thing that I highlighted in the book, where it talked about the kings, because we see a lot of the kings mentioned here in these scriptures, and it said that the kings represented the good, the bad, and the ugly. But their behavior did not derail God's singular purpose of bringing the Messiah through David's descendants. There again, I don't know, it's just over and over. God's grace is amazing. It just doesn't matter. The good, the bad, the ugly. Isn't that some of our families? Isn't that some of what we have in our line too? It just doesn't matter. And I think that's so important, because we all have sinned. And this truth, and it says here, this truth should bolster our future hope and motivate gratitude for being included in his family of the redeemed. That's major. Another thing, it's talked a little bit about God's salvation. So if we look at like verses 12 through 17, and even though Matthew is using this genealogy to validate the claim of Jesus as Israel's Messiah, as the promised Messiah, right? His ultimate goal is about using these diverse groups. Just over and over, we see that he purposely chose people that did not have it all. They just didn't have it all together. They had bad reputations. Some of them had good reputations. There were a few good kings, but there were a lot of bad kings. It didn't matter. They still show up in the line of Jesus. I don't know what that says to you, but what that says to me is there is nothing that will be able to stop the will and the purpose of God. Nothing. See, there's another, what I think I have highlighted here in the book. It says the message of God's desire is that all, including outsiders, have the opportunity to receive salvation. It permeates through Christ's genealogy. Over and over, God's grace, God's purpose, and God's salvation, it is inclusive of all people. There's no one that should be excluded from salvation and from being a part of God's purpose and his will. One of the things that it talked about is that initially God's attitude that no one is beyond his divine acceptance, and you should motivate intentional evangelism towards those whom some may view as outsiders. I made the statement in class that, for that to happen, for this inclusion to happen, I think that the church, and as a whole, not any specific church body, but the church as a whole has to stop allowing itself to be an exclusive club. Because Jesus, as we can see, is all about inclusion. But I think we have somehow set up this exclusive club. And it really does. And for people that are out there hurting or needing love, needing that community, they don't feel comfortable coming to the church. That's what this lesson is. I'm going through it. There could be so many ways to look at this lesson. There could be so many points that comes out of this. Some that we talked about this morning in Bible study. Some we didn't talk about. Some that I'm sure I'll be thinking about just in the next weeks to come, because it was just so very eye-opening to see. The blood still works. And I think that it's important to see that the blood of Jesus, it's still sufficient to save any sinner. And I think it says that in this book. But those are just a few points I have. There's no way to cover it all. There again, Brother Lewis did a great job. The class chimed in this morning, did a great job with things. But if you weren't there, you just really miss an opportunity to be involved in these conversations of how we can do the business of our Father about bringing outsiders in. That's it. Thank you.